Hi, this is Dirk from Motorcycle Daily. We're testing the 2011 Moto Guzzi Norge GT8V, and this is one of the bikes that has been rather significantly improved for 2011 thanks to some R&D money from Piaggio. It's got all new bodywork, a new motor, that's the most important thing. It's got the 8-valve engine this year, 4 valves per cylinder. The fuel injection is really nice. The power output is substantially better than the old 2-valve motor. It's got an electrically adjustable windscreen. The suspension has new settings, a little bit sportier, a little bit firmer. So we'll take this thing for a ride and tell you what we think. I'm going to take the Moto Guzzi for a ride here. This is the redesigned 2011 Norge. One of the things I noticed about this bike is that the brakes are really strong. There's a lot of initial bite. Some people might think there's almost too much initial bite with these brakes. It has good quality Brembo calipers. I like a lot of initial bite, so I'm really pleased with the brakes. You just need to be smooth with them, which is good advice anytime you're braking. The bike handles very well, corners extremely well for such a big heavy bike. It transitions from side to side very smoothly. You do feel the weight. You know you are aware that you are not flicking a ultra-light sport bike from side to side, but as I said, it transitions well. It does turn on its side surprisingly well for such a big bike, and it holds its line really well in the corners. Can't really fault the handling at all. The bike is real stable at high speeds on the freeway. One of the better handling tours I've ever ridden, and really handles better than some of the sport tours that I've ridden. The engine is really strong. This is the new 8-valve motor. The fuel injection is pretty close to perfect. It's a little bit cold-blooded when you start out, but the bike redlines at 8,000 RPM, so it's all about the low end and mid-range, and it's very quick. We'll go down the freeway here in a minute, and I'll open it up and you'll get a better idea of that, but the bike is fast. It's a large displacement twin, 4-valve heads and fuel injection, so you wouldn't expect it to be slow. But Moto Guzzis in the past have been fairly rough with regard to their fueling. Sometimes you just have to label it as poor throttle response, but Piaggio's worked hard on that with this motor, and the throttle response is really, as I said earlier, just about perfect. The bike is really comfortable. The seat is one of the best touring seats I've sat on. The only ergonomic issue really is a lack of legroom compared to a lot of touring bikes. Even at 5'11", my knees are bent quite a bit when I'm on the bike. Other than that, the The bars allow you to sit very upright, very comfortable position. The adjustable windscreen, you can see how I have to reach over. I'm lowering it with my right thumb right now. It's a little hard to reach. Now I'm going to raise it with my left thumb. A little hard to reach, but not that big of a deal. It's not like you're going to be adjusting your windscreen every 10 seconds. But the screen itself has a complex shape. It's not a constant radius, and it really does a good job of keeping wind buffeting off of me. Even though I'm only 5'11", I have relatively short legs and a long torso, so I sit as high in the saddle as a 6-footer. And in high position, I was very comfortable at high speeds. We'll go down here and get on the freeway for a short bit. The transmission is very good. It's a 6-speed, much improved over the clunky transmissions of old. It still is a bit reluctant to go into first gear sometimes. You got to give it a pretty good kick. Sometimes you have to roll the bike an inch or so to get it to clunk into first, but that's not really a big issue for me. Once I'm rolling, the transmission works very, very well, and a marked contrast from Guzzi transmissions of old. Moto Guzzis have always been a bit quirky, and the way the controls are laid out, including the windscreen control, the high beam adjuster on the left here, you actually push out for high beam. The kill switch is a bit odd, but I kind of like that. I mean, it's just different. The bike has character. The motor has a lot of nice vibes to it. It does rock you to the side a little bit when you're sitting at a stoplight if you're revving it. Sort of like a BMW Boxer, but bike has plenty of power even with a passenger and luggage. I rode around quite a bit with a 135-pound passenger. I'm about 210 pounds. Really, the motor handles that effortlessly, just like you would expect from a big displacement twin. So acceleration is never a problem. The power comes on so low that you don't really have to worry too much about what gear you're in when you try to pass someone. The bike has a sweet spot. It's probably from 4,500 RPM on up. But it pulls pretty well everywhere, just above idle. Suspension I really like. I haven't really touched the adjustments. It's probably on the firm side for a tourer. It's definitely on the firm side, but it's not harsh by any means. And being a little bit firmer, it allows you to ride the bike aggressively with more confidence. The instrumentation on the bike is very, very thorough. I really love the analog gauges, the traditional looking analog gauges for the tach, the speedometer, and the fuel gauge. There's also an LED that provides a lot of information. that you can scroll through with this mode switch on the left here. The LED doesn't have quite as much contrast as I'd like, so it's a little bit difficult to read, particularly in bright sunlight. This is an interesting little road. It goes off camber up here as you're coming down a hill toward the stop sign. And you got to have some confidence in your bike to ride through here comfortably, and this bike provides plenty of that. There's good feel and feedback from the front end. As I said earlier, the handling is really hard to fault. The Moto Guzzi motors themselves have a pretty good reputation for reliability, which isn't too surprising, really. The basic architecture of the motor has been around for decades. Even the 4-valve head version has been around for more than 10 years. So the things that have been done are really more in the nature of refinements. And so I think that you could expect the motor to be very reliable. This is a shaft drive bike, so you have the low maintenance benefits associated with that, which is important to a lot of people in a touring bike. And what Moto Guzzi has done with this shaft drive is design it in a way that eliminates the unnatural jacking type feel you would get from the rear end of a shaft drive motorcycle. Doesn't really feel any different than a chain driven bike from that perspective, which is nice. This is really a fun motorcycle to ride. It's really comfortable. The bags have a lot of space. It'd be a good touring bike. If you have long legs or you have a problem with riding with your knees bent significantly, that might be an issue for you.